But you kind of learn. You learn to manage. You learn to ask for help.
Yes.
You learn how to prioritize things.
Just being a people person, like talking to people, interaction, but also the math side of things and numbers.
It's to become the advisors, to be in the advisor shoes, and AGT is definitely helping us get there. Oh, I'm sorry. It was lean. What is one of the scariest moments you've had on the job, and were you able to lean on anyone for support?
I feel like in operations, there's a lot of things that can kind of, I don't know,
like
not go wrong,
completing
but
a transactional wire.
Completing that, like stuff like that is just honestly
that's
pretty
actually
scary.
A great one. Yeah.
And like typically, I mean, you'll obviously do everything you can, but there's are situations that come up where it's like something just goes wrong and it, you know, could or couldn't have been out of your control. But I think in terms of like support, like you always have Valerie is there. And like, I think the advisors too are very supportive in the sense of like, you know, if there's a problem, I'm going to get it fixed. You have your whole team, you have the Schwab team.
Exactly.
Like,
you lean on your team and your resources.
And with stuff that does, you know, come up. Because obviously
it's inevitable in life. You know, things come up, you know, problems happen, but we're all still here now. Everything.
Yeah. And the good news about that is you overcome it and you learn from it.
Yeah. I'd say for me, so I do all our plans live with Nell. And there's a lot of times where a client will ask a question while I'm going through it, and Nell will assume that there's a way to do it or that I know how to do it. And so there's been plenty of times where I'm not just going to say right out to the client, we can't do that. So I'm going to figure out some way to show them in some capacity what they want to see.
Yeah.
So that happens a good bit because the technology has some limitations, of course. So, but you always got to find a way to do the best you can in some form or another.
And it's okay to be like, I don't know the answer off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm not saying go make stuff up.
or like if you know something's going to need a little bit more of a deep end dive, you can be like, hey, this is what I know now, or I don't know, or let me get that answer to you in a couple of hours or tomorrow. I think a lot of people, even within the firm, are very understandable, and clients too, as long as you give them like a appropriate deadline that you're going to get back to them. They're okay accepting that for right now.
Yeah. And I think your first point, it is in this industry, it is better to be right than it is to be fast.
Yes,
absolutely.
At the end of the day, if you need to take time, take your time.
Yes, definitely. What did you learn in school that you could apply at Bogart?
Something that's unorthodox, I could probably add to this one, is everyone, when they think of school, they think of like textbooks. But I think people kind of forget that when you're in school, you also have the due diligence that has to come with it. I mean, you get out of school graduating with a degree, and let's be honest, college comes with a lot of distractions. So I think one thing that I guess that's not a textbook form from school is that you're going to need the diligence you have in college to an extent that you're going to need when you're working on projects that may not always be fun or that may be hard to get through or very challenging. You're going to need that to keep going.
Yeah. And I think we all came from, you know, I said it earlier, but we all came from Virginia Tech outside of Victoria, which has the, you know, the CFP program, the degree in wealth management. So before we even got to the on-the-job experience, we are comfortable with some of these terms and yeah.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is I mean, I would like to think I would, but if I didn't go into this field, maybe I wouldn't know what a Roth IRA is. It is something that I realize I've taken for granted, especially when talking to some friends that don't just have the experience that we do.
Yeah.
I was going to say too, kind of something that you can bring from school is I guess just like a fresh perspective. Because I think especially us, because since we were in the financial planning program, and then we're also part of FPA, you know, we get a lot of perspectives on what wealth management looks like in our generation and the new coming generations. And then also vice versa, you see different perspectives on, you know, how firms approach that. And you kind of take all of that and then you can kind of bring ideas to the table here since we kind of were able to, you know, see all these different things.
Yeah, and I've noticed that some of the topics that we cover at Tech, I bring up here, and it's like, oh, we didn't even think about this.
Yeah.
All right. What brought you to this profession? This is a great question.
Yeah, for me, it was kind of a generic answer. I feel like for a lot of people that I've talked to when I first started, I came into tech business undecided. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I applied engineering.
Yeah.
Thank goodness I did not get in engineering. But so I started just 2 years business, and the middle of the second year, the head of the program came in to talk to our class about what financial planning was. I never really considered it as a path. Like I'd heard of what it is, but I didn't really know too much. And he just described it as the perfect mix of just being a people person, like talking to people, interaction, but also the math side of things and numbers, which I always preferred more personally in school. So having that balance of the two was like, well, I don't know what I want to do. That sounds not too bad.
Yeah.
So I kind of went from there.
I had literally the identical experience. So thank you, Nick, for summing it up for the both of us.
Yeah, mine. My freshman year roommate. He was interested in the CFP program, and I just sort of followed him. And I'm so glad I did because this industry and this firm are both great. So
I did not have that experience. Again, econ major over here. All I really knew was I love helping people, and I wanted a job where I could talk to people, but also be able to help them. And I didn't know what it was at that time when I graduated. Until I went on LinkedIn and there was Bogart Wealth, and it's like, do you like helping people? And I didn't even know that Bogart Wealth was a financial firm. All I knew was, I like helping people. And that's where I am today.
Great.
I think it's just, it's very fulfilling, I think, in the sense that you get to have you get to make such long-term relationships with people and, help them reach their goals. And I think in turn, they help you too, because you build these relationships and, you both benefit from. And I think it's very unique in the sense that not a lot of career paths, you're meeting with the same clients for decades and, helping them build out their lives and their kids' lives. I think that's really cool to see, looking back from start to finish, how much of an impact you've made and then how much they've impacted you as well.
And the cool thing about that is sometimes you hear about jobs being day by day, the same thing every single time. And for me, that would be so boring. And knowing just how much we have different unique cases because of our clients, and we're able to further challenge ourselves because of that really resonates with me. And I think that's part of the reason why and I wanted to become an advisor eventually, was because I not only wanted to help and teach people, but I also wanted to be able to be in a position where I can continuously grow and learn.
Yep.
Yeah. And just talking about helping people and just the long-term relationships you build. There's an example for me is one client who helped her through a pretty tough time she was going through in her life. Every time she comes in, she gives me a big hug and brings me candy.
Oh, I know this one.
And it just, that's as a cliche, that's the kind of thing that makes it worth it.
Yeah. Absolutely though.
So what has been your biggest challenge while working at Bogart Wealth?
I got one.
What you got?
So I think, I've obviously only been in operations, but I think learning how to manage. So operations is, different in the sense that you have email in, email out, and kind of uneven workflow, I'd say. Because you work under your pod of advisors. You have a certain amount of advisors that you manage, but you have really no control over how many requests are going to come in during the day, coming out.
And some days are so much busier than other days.
And some days, specifically kind of at year end and everything. And I think my biggest challenge was learning how to manage all of that in one day when there quite literally aren't enough hours in a day. But you kind of learn. You learn to manage. You learn to ask for help.
Yes.
You learn how to prioritize things and just be efficient. But it definitely is a big challenge. And kind of going back to the last question, thrown into the fire, opposite year end is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But
one of my really big challenges, I think, came during War Room. I don't typically like to feel like I don't know what I'm talking about, or I'm not smart or not good at something. And those first couple meetings in the War Room, giving these ideas that I did my research, I prepared, but I really don't know if they're good or not. And all these guys are much smarter than I am about these topics. So I was super nervous that I was going to say stuff and they were going to be like, oh, that's so wrong, or you can't do this. But they were super supportive, constructive about it.
Very encouraging.
Pointing out even if this wasn't a whole great idea, this was a good thought here. So I think that was something that helped me feel a lot more comfortable talking to them and then talking to clients about that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah.
makes sense.
How do you manage work-life balance? Really short, straightforward question, but kind of a hard answer.
I can Go ahead. Okay. I think it's very important to continue doing things that you love outside of work. I mean, I know we spend 40 hours a week here, and probably 50% of our time is with people in the office. And trust me, I love it. But it's also, I think I had a challenge when I first started, because I first started and I was working 7 days a week. I didn't have hobbies. The gym was not part of my life at that time.
You didn't work here 7 days a week, just to clarify.
Yes. I had a part-time job on the weekend. And so when that ended, I honestly had a hard time transitioning, and I was like, I don't know what to do with my life. And it's really important now for me to know that I can go and do things that I used to do when I was in high school. Like, I'll go to a coffee shop, or I'll binge watch anime. But most importantly, like, I go to the gym, and I like have that essential part where I do things that I normally wouldn't do. And it's also important to remember, like, to not think about work when you're not at work.
Yeah. And like setting your boundaries almost. That's just like, this is work. I'm going to leave this at work. And then after work, I'm going to, do what's good for
and our hours aren't, very demanding.
No, and we work in a place that encourages
horror stories of like banking and like
but at an RIA, we're working 8:30 to 5, and for me, interests come on the weekends and after work, and I think it's a great work-life balance. I love what I do. I like being here and in this industry, and after work, I get to do what I want to do.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know, I think we're, I guess, very fortunate to love our jobs here. And I think that's definitely a very significant part of why the work-life balance works. But I think it's also important to remember that, like, even our firm is very flexible when things need to be changed around. Like, if something comes up personally, they're okay with us being like, hey, I have to go. And then, working around our hours to figure it out.
Yeah. Having a work from home day a week. A lot of places are in the office every single day. And the flexibility with it. If you have a maintenance man coming, one of the days it's, hey, just talk to your supervisor. Can I move my work from home day this week? I'd really appreciate it. And as long as there's coverage in the office, everyone's really okay with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
sure.
Awesome.
What are your long-term career goals, and do you think AGT is helping you get there?
I think I can speak for all of us on this one.
How about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's to become the advisors, to be in the advisor shoes, and AGT is definitely helping us get there. We've said it many times, but having been in each department is what I need to do to get there. I need to understand what operations look like and what it takes to move money and open accounts, how to build a financial plan, which is something we do in the planning department, and doing research and trading in our portfolio management department.
Yeah, we have plans, checklists, basically walkway to how to get there.
Yeah, you really learn like the importance of, I feel like being in like each department's shoes, you get a different, I keep saying the word perspective. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
it is though.
Like you get, and you also, I feel like you value it more because you've lived it. And then you also kind of know, I was in your shoes once too. Like, I feel like it really gives you a cool perspective, and like the sense that you value what goes into your role as an advisor so much more because you lived that.
Yeah.
And you know what it takes when you're finished and you're where Nick is. You're an associate advisor working directly under one of the financial advisors, and I think that's the best way to develop a new financial advisor. It just comes with time. I think starting and meeting everybody's very friendly. It makes it easy. So